Okay, we're live. Hello, dear Starshines. Christina here with Lightbody Academy. Welcome to today's lunchtime chats. For those of you who are new, my name is Christina, and I'm a acceleration expert. That is consciousness acceleration expert, and we are here to talk about those topics and issues that are significant for us star seeds, way showers, and new paradigm visionaries. We have abilities and perceptions that are not necessarily embraced by the majority of our human family. Therefore, we have different perspectives on our experiences and our basic worldview and even cosmology that's extremely unique to us. So therefore, the challenges that we face on a daily basis don't necessarily qualify in what's available for us in the mainstream. So I am here to give, to the best of my ability anyway, a liberated perspective on these challenges we face on a daily basis. So I'll pause right here and give everybody a moment to jump onto the call. Hello, dear Sister Carol. So glad to see you here. Uh, and you guys, as you come on, let us know where you're coming from. Let us know where you're at in the world or in the cosmos. We'd be glad to hear it. So if you want to stay connected beyond these chats and even participate in the cultivation of the kinds of things we talk about in these chats, I encourage you guys to connect with us on social media. We have, for those of you who are still using Facebook, we have a Facebook group called Rise of the Multidimensional Human. And there are conversations and sharings that happen within that community that often contribute to the things that we talk about in these chats. And the same thing with our Telegram group, which is called Multidimensional Human on Telegram, where people share and comment and chat, and that also contributes to the kinds of things we talk about in these chats. So, and of course, you're always welcome to join us live Thursday noon Mountain Time here on our YouTube channel every week, and just ask those questions or share those pieces that you want to share here live with us as part of the conversation. So that's also a really great way to engage as well. And we're also on Instagram and Twitter and stuff like this. On Instagram, we are Multidimensional Accelerator, and on Twitter, we are Lightbody Energy. So we're out there on the different social media platforms if you'd like to connect, and I look forward to getting to connect with you and know more about you. I really love to understand what are the challenges we're facing today, because all of us are so very unique, and especially us Starseeds way showers. We definitely have a different perspective than the general public. Yeah. So I'm super stoked to be talking about these topics and issues on the level that we can talk about them here in this group. So thank you all for being here, for real. If it wasn't for you guys being here, I totally would not be doing this work. So thank you. Hello, dear Sister Sherry from Oregon. Good to see you, dear. Soul Schooling. Hello. Susan from Washington. And we have Claudia. Hi, Claudia. Then we have Samantha Jones from Ohio, and then Beverly from Toronto. All right, good to see you guys. Thank you for being here. All right, so the topics, there's a few things that we're going to talk about today. And these ended up happening over our conversation in both the Telegram group and the Rise of the Multidimensional Human group on Facebook. And the first piece, which will probably be the last piece I talk about, is medbed technology and the use, the potential benevolent use of AI tech in the frame up of medbed technology. Okay, there's this. And then there's another thing about a dear Sister Starshine. I believe, Carol, it was you that posted a question saying about asking about some material that she listened to that really left her feeling fearful and confused. And this is the Ashayana Deane material. This is actually a really significant thing to talk about, because this is a huge rabbit hole, and I'm so stoked that you asked that question, so I can start to frame up some of these pieces that keep us locked into certain rings of thought or realms of reality or points of view. Okay, so I want to talk about that because her specific comment was that she watched an in-depth interview, and when she left it, she felt terrible. She felt fearful and confused, and not at all like how she feels when she gets off of a call that or an interview or something that I'm sharing on my channel. And there's very particular reasons why that's so. So I'm going to talk about that. And then Dear Sister Starshine from YouTube, by the handle VS, she asks about her granddaughter. Her 7-year-old granddaughter insists that she's from another planet and says that she travels to that planet in her dream time. So as a loving grandmother, as all of you I'm sure can relate to in some level, she wants to know how can she help her granddaughter either nurture or cultivate the connection to these memories. So I want to talk about that as well. And actually, I think I want to start on that particular piece first. Hello, darling. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Okay, so the piece I want to talk about with this is something common, especially the early generation indigos. You know, those of us that, well, I was born in the early 70s, but there's also indigos that came in the 50s and 60s. And of course, there's more and more started coming to this planet as we get out of the 70s into the 80s, 90s. And then there's even more fuller spectrum souls that are incarnating that we sometimes might call crystal or rainbow children, stuff like this. But in general, starting with the indigos, we had perceptions and frame-ups of reality that were extremely different than the family we were born into. Okay, and we could generalize all of those spectrums of souls I'm talking about as starseeds, indigos, rainbows, crystal children, so on and so forth. And what's happening is that, you know, we come in with a different purpose in our soul. Our soul has a different agenda for being here. That means that we have different encodements within our being that allow us to stay in particular levels of abstract awareness. And then we also have, you know, abilities that are very specific to our purpose to help us push through the density, the clouding, some might say the sleep walking that humanity's doing. We have encodements to bust through the sleepwalking, and it's very, very strong, this sleepwalking. And so these abilities, these perceptions that we have are equally as strong to match that energy. The idea is to have those levels of perception be the deepest part of ourselves that we trust. And then we learn how to navigate this world without being lost to this world, if that makes sense. Another way of saying it is these abilities or these perceptions are so strong inside of us, and they're there so we can be in the world, but not a product of it. Okay, so that means we're not in the system fully invested. We're aware that the system is something separate from what life is truly about. Okay, so that is actually in the early days was something really difficult for indigos to deal with because they were alone. There were no other people that really had perceptions like this, and there were even fewer people that didn't have perceptions that were accepting of these abilities, right? So what I would say is your 7-year-old granddaughter is likely a starseed, and she has these abilities because she's come in for a purpose. And if you want to cultivate help her cultivate what's important for her in her life path, or nurture, I would say nurture her in a way that supports her soul's journey's life path, right? There's several things that one can be doing, especially as a grandmother. I know that there's a lot more starseeds than ever before incarnating on this planet. So there's so much more available to us, and the veils of these realms are so significantly, like exponentially less than they used to be. So it's really not that hard to provide a connection and support for a starseed. If you're aware of what's going on another level. So on one level, a parent or grandparent might really freak out that their 7-year-old is saying these things because they're going to be considered weird or woo-woo, or you know what I mean? Like it could be something wrong with them. They could be diagnosed as crazy, right? Well, true, all those things have happened in the past, and some parents, not because they don't really know any better, pursue an allopathic Western medicine um, uh, path to try to find a solution for the child. Unfortunately, it doesn't work because those particular modalities and traditions do not allow for consciousness to play a factor in why certain things are so. For example, allopathic medicine is not a fan or actually, they're an adversary to the ideas of holistic healing and health, right? So similarly, Western medicine, as far as mental health and wellness, are also not so friendly to holistic health and wellness, as far as cultivating a biosuit and personality and ego driver that leaves room for the mysteries of the soul to express itself. So, because, for example, I was an early generation indigo, and I very quickly was diagnosed as ADD and all these other things, and they wanted to put me on meds, and they wanted to do this and wanted to do that. There was all these sorts of whole list of things. They would start off after doing all these tests on me when I was a kid. Number one, she's brilliant, but number two, she has all these problems, right? And there was a long list of problems, and the problems became like a label that followed me year after year in school, because there were certain things that go along. They had certain protocols for ADD. They had certain protocols for certain kinds of what they considered learning disabilities. But really, what it was is that I can absorb many different kinds of spectrums of information all at once. And that was something that didn't compute for them. That was not something that they recognized as really being a thing. So I lucked out in that my mother she knew in her heart that everything that they were saying about me was framed up inappropriately, and that I did not need meds. And if anything, she was a huge proponent for me to explore myself, do my own thing. And some might say explore your own crazy, right? So I had lots of vivid night experiences, night terrors, dreams. I had way later in life, I realized those were abduction experiences, but I had a lot going on when I was young. And the thing that least interested me was sitting in a chair at school. I thought it was absolutely boring, ridiculous, and I also saw it as a control system. I really felt it as a predatory system that pretty much trapped kids. I mean, I came to that conclusion when I was right around 7 years old, right? Not long after my epiphany, that epiphany I had when I was 5, when I realized everything was wrong with this world, backwards. So I was coming to my own conclusions about these things, and it's such an amazing thing to have anybody in the family to recognize and support, to support me in these different ideas and these perspectives that I had. So my mom was really great about that. So I lucked out. Not everybody lucks out so much with that kind of thing, because she did follow allopathic medicine. She did follow traditional school system because she was an educator herself. But she just had a feeling inside that she couldn't ignore when it came to how to address me and my issues, or what they were calling were issues. They're really not issues at all. It's just they didn't understand how to deal with a highly accelerated learner. I mean, a rapid learner. I could walk into a room with like 10 different TVs or 10 different things going on, and I can absorb all the information that was this is when I was young. I can absorb all that information, and it'll be permanently in my brain. They could test me on it. I could do whatever. So they considered, because it wasn't normal, they considered that that had learning disabilities, but really it was the opposite of that. Anyway, so getting back to your grandchild, your granddaughter, 7 years old, having these experiences of being from another planet and then visiting that planet in the dream time. It's very, very simple, the kinds of things that you can do to help her process. Number one, realize there's a reason why, on a deep soul level, there's a reason why she's not letting that go. There's a reason why it's presenting. And that reason is something significant about her life path. It could be even something significant for your life path as well. So to encourage the work with her first, believe her. Listen to her, inquire, ask questions, start asking questions about what she's dreaming. What's going on in your dream time, darling? What happened tonight? What happened here? What happened there? And if you are an astute listener, if you know how to listen with more past just the words and actually feel the energy behind what she's trying to say, there's quite likely some pretty significant transmissions in the dream share that she shares with you that can really support you in your path as well. Okay. So starseeds are very special beings. This isn't a normal thing to happen. Normally, when life gets reseeded, when there's a huge quantum upgrade within a lifespan of a planet, usually all the life gets extinguished and then gets reseeded in the new model. But what's happening here is that life is staying here and it's getting reseeded with the new model while the original life is there. So starseeds coming in the way that they are in side by side with souls that were incarnating according to the rules of an old paradigm is a very, very unique thing that does not happen. Up until now. This is like, this is why it's so exciting for the cosmos to see what's happening on this planet, because it's rarely ever or never done this way. I have a feeling, it's going to work, and then it's going to be, maybe more common. But anyway, so listen to her dreams, listen to what she talks about. Also, nurture her creativity, nurture her art with arts and crafts, with dance, with song, with poetry. Help her stay connected to the abstract brainwaves. She's going to stay in the abstract brainwaves until she's 12 years old. So you have another 5 years to really help her anchor in the abstract brainwaves as the beta, the ability to be in linear reality, develop within her. So that way, that might look like, as in, like, she never lets the idea of magic die. She keeps the magic alive inside of herself as she progresses forward. So you don't need to be a spiritual master or a psychic intuitive or a ET experiencer to support her. It's more about just supporting her creative process, her inner freedom. Okay, inner freedom. Like, she can have thoughts without telling herself how wrong she is. She can have thoughts without being embarrassed to share them. She can have, what I mean? She can have things happen inside of her, and even though they're off the wall, they could potentially be worth something. And she'll learn that by sharing that with you in how you respond to the things that she's sharing. You see what I mean? So you only need one person in the world in your world to speak truth to you. And it's enough. For a starseed, that's enough. For me, there was nobody until I was about 12 years old. And as soon as I started hearing alternative ideas and stuff, that was all I needed. It was like, boom, it instantly opened me to so much more. Right? Because I was getting to the point like, crap, this world just isn't right. And what's my place in it? I don't like the roles that they're trying to hand me now, So I was desperately looking for ways to make my own reality, make the life that I want. And I was about to really go forward and commit myself to being a nun, because I knew that the rat race life was not real and it drained the life out of people. And I was aware of that at the age of 12. Anyway, so once I found out that there are other thoughts, other ways to connect with spirit, other ideas about reality, as soon as I learned it, as soon as I heard it from somebody, I instantly opened up and changed. It changed everything for me. So you only need one person to acknowledge something, one person to really see you, even if it's not all of you, but some part of you that's not normally seen. You just need one person as a child. I mean, it's great if it's a community, but really you just need that one, and how fitting for it to be you, grandma. Other things that you could be doing is helping her cultivate energy practices, maybe do some yoga, right? Maybe meditate with her. Maybe take meditative walks in the forest with her. Tell her stories about fairies and dragons and nature spirits. You see, help her just have fun and know joy and cultivate magic cultivate magic with her at your house and in her life. That's all. It's so simple. It's so simple. Anybody could do it. It just takes the awareness that it's actually worthwhile doing. You know. When you're brought up thinking, or when you're brought up taught that, you know, what all that's worthwhile is your labor, like how you clean the house, how you keep your room clean, how you get your homework done, how you get approval from your teachers, how you get everybody to love you. If you grow up thinking that that's all there is in life, it's a very limited existence. Okay. But when you grow up realizing that your imagination and the stories that you make up in your mind and the thing and your ability to think expansively is something that's worthwhile to somebody. See, now that's a different seed that's getting planted, right? And this is exactly what we need. Us star seeds need people to help us, inspire the genius that is within us, because we have ways of looking at things that are so different than the Western world. And quite literally, that's why we're here, is to actuate those things, because this world needs us. They need our outrageous, outlandish perspectives and ideas, because right now, humanity, the Western world, is locked in a downward spiral of death and destruction. Right? This is what we're watching all around us in these constructs that people have dedicated all of their life force energy to, and they're falling away. Humanity has been duped into creating, with their own thoughts and beliefs and intent, creating a reverse world, an inverted matrix where everything is backwards. So we're waking up out of that, and the star seeds are a major piece to the puzzle of having that happen. And we're stepping out of those old paradigm ideas and bringing in new ideas, bringing in different ways of looking at it. And I mean, what we perceive, the people in the old paradigm would say is impossible, but we know it with every fiber of our being that it's not impossible. It's just that they're limited in their reality and their perceptions, and with their limited abilities and ability to perceive and imagine, that's why it's impossible. A great example, and I just talked about this yesterday with your sister Beverly. A great example is the whole idea of sustainability, right? This is why the mass population reduction is in some of the alternative narratives, because there's this idea that we cannot live sustainably. The earth can't sustain a certain number of people. That's if everybody's implementing ecologically sustainable systems. But what a starseed knows, what a rainbow and indigo and star crystalline people know, that it's not about sustainability. It's about harnessing the power of the regeneration. So it's regenerative farming. It's regenerative energy production. It's regenerative medicine. It's regenerative inventions. You see what I mean? So it's not, so the idea of sustainability, that's an old paradigm idea. That ship has sailed long ago. If we all instantly went sustainable this moment worldwide, it would not stop the problems that we're having on this planet. We need to go to regenerating. And this is not a new thought. This is something that has been in the starseed circles for many, many, many years. And there are people out there doing it today. You just need to find those people and support them, right? And that's what these children that are coming to this world are for. They know exactly the potential that they can have with the planet, with Earth, and with other humans. And as long as we have a system that doesn't choke the life out of that, right, within them, we're gonna make it through, right? Our dear sister Carol says, my daughter was wonderful, has wonderful spiritual gifts, and we have supported her since the beginning. I love that she has never been told these gifts weren't true. We're excited to see where she goes. Yes, exactly. Thank you. Yeah. So, I did this with my children as well. And what was interesting is that once they reach teenagerhood, like deeper, later teenagerhood, right? They turned their back on all of it. And part of it was they did not want the level of responsibility. They wanted to be able to be mad and throw fits. They wanted to be able to involve themselves in their family or in their friends' teenage drama, right? They wanted to get into what their peers were doing, and they had to let go of their core teachings to engage. And that's exactly what they did. Luckily, they didn't really get too heavily involved in drugs, even though, I mean, this was in Colorado, which has a huge problem with drug use and teenagers. But anyway, they really didn't go too far down that road, but they definitely turned their backs on it, and they didn't start coming out of that until their 20s, when they started, like 20, 22, 21, 22, then they started to turn around and re-embrace their abilities again. And believe me, that was a very difficult time in my life, because their way of rejecting their abilities meant they had to reject me and the principles that I hold. So when they would come for advice, they did not want to hear real advice because it's based in these principles. So the teenage years for me as a mom was the most difficult time of parenting I've ever had. Anyway, little tangent on that. All right, dear Sister Polly says, you are so right about the regeneration. Thank you. Yes. And believe me, guys, there's lots of folks doing this. You don't hear about it because it's not necessarily what the narrative is about, right? Because the narrative is about, being ecologically sustainable. And if you're not about ecological sustainability, then you're this and this and this. Like all the narratives they have in the old paradigm have this, if you're not with me, you're against me kind of vibe to it. And, that doesn't work for us. It doesn't work for Starseeds. It doesn't work for visionaries. It's like, what do you mean if I'm not with you, I'm against you? It's just a bad idea. It doesn't mean I think you're a terrible human, right? Or it's just, it's a mediocre idea. This is going to take real genius. This is going to take brilliance to pull us out of the problems that we're having right now. And I have faith that we can do it. I feel like because there's so many starseeds coming to this planet right now, that soon we're going to end up being the majority of the collective consciousness on this planet. And that's the game over after that. We're going to totally be in charge. Even though I did hear a concept that it only takes 5% to create a movement, to create change. And that could be true. Okay, so dear sister, I hope that was helpful about your helpful in how to help cultivate your granddaughter. If you want her to specifically get in touch with those memories, I would say the dream time, listen to her dream time and have her tell you her dreams when she remembers going there and her, at night. And the more, because what that does is that it's bringing the alternate reality of dream time into the here and now reality. And the more you do that, as more you dream share like that, the more lucid and the more dreams come. Okay, so and then you can get to the reason why she's having those dreams. Usually there's an overlay happening. That memory is an overlay of a much bigger energy coming from her soul, trying to connect with her in some way, and or connect with you. Because collective dreaming is a big truth, right? People don't realize that we all are in the same dream. We have specific flavors that are for us, but once you learn how to get through those veils, all those overlays of who you think you are, and you step into the bigger collective dream, absolute magic happens with that when you're able to do that. And if she could do that starting at a young age, amazing. Bravo. That's awesome. All right, let's keep going. Let's go ahead and move on to Ashayana Deane, right? So there's I can't remember the name of the book. And I think, Claudia, darling, you posted something. I didn't get to read it. You posted something about that, the Voyager series, right? So she authored the Voyager series, and that's kind of what started this whole movement. And I can't remember the name of the group itself, but there was a very significant controversy, let's say, A very significant controversy, and I'm really not surprised because of the kind of material she was bringing forward. But what that controversy did was really leave some bad experiences for people who are in her group. Okay, so how do you spell Ashayana Deane? This is Beverly asking that. So Ashayana Deane is Ashyana, then Deane, Deane. Now, most of her videos have actually been scrubbed from the internet, but you will find some people that still have interviews with her on their channel. Camelot Productions, I think it's called Camelot Productions. They've been around for a long time. They have a really interesting series with her. I think it's like a 6-hour interview with her. And then there's some clips that other people took from moments of her workshop that they've also posted. And actually, there's a dear brother here in our Facebook group who studied with her for nearly 12 years. So, and here's the thing, this kind of energy is really, really difficult to bring through. And I'm shocked that she lasted as long as she did, because of so much of the frequencies that she was bringing through was considered absolutely forbidden on this planet. Okay. Forbidden. So that means you had very powerful interdimensional beings keeping their radar out for people. Project Camelot, yes, with Kerry Cassidy. Thank you, Claudia. Right, yeah, right, excellent, yes. And so in the past, what would happen is that if someone stepped out of line, stepped out of the program, let's say on an interdimensional level, they were taken out. For example, OSHA had that issue. He was right there at that edge, taking people out of the confinement of the old paradigm systems. He figured out a way for people to use their emotional body to bust out of old paradigm systems. So, I mean, he did that for like 20 years or something like this, and he ended up getting taken down by our own government. And then you have, gosh, there's so many. A lot of them get taken out with illnesses or sonic devices. There's all sorts of ways that people get taken out. In her case, it seems like she got taken down with a money legal battle over who really owned the content. I think, and I don't know the details of the battle. And like I said, Claudia, I didn't really read this post all the way through because I just saw it right before I got on, but I'm going to check it out. There's conflicts and falling out, and here's why. And actually, let me first address the fearful and confusion thing, because this is actually super important. Actually, this is more important than the other side, John, actually. So the question is like, why do I feel feel fearful and confused now? Why? And she probably watched that because I posted it or recommended it in some way. And here's what's going on. All right. Number one, we need to, when we're on our path of awakening, we just put one foot in front of the other. It's one foot in front of the other. There's no rush, right? The pace that you're at is exactly the pace you need to be going. So first there's this kind of thing, right? And then the other thing is that the infiltration of consciousness is so vast that you can't just wake up to it in a second. It's too jarring. It's too shocking. It's really not in your best interest. It's not in the best interest of your progress, of your growth, but also, it can be traumatizing if you rip the Band-Aid off before you're ready. So this is why, you guys, those previous chats last year, I would do a 9D activation when presenting certain kinds of all the information, right? Because what that 9D activation is doing, it's activating you to who you are on the different nesting dolls of the realities up to the galactic plane. Okay. Now, opening up to the galactic plane, that is part of the default abilities that come with having a biosuit. All right. So you're not breaking any paradigm rules by opening up to these levels of who you are. You're still staying within the confines of you're still staying within the safety zone. I'll say it like that, right? So once you wake up to the galactic plane of who you are, there's lots and lots and lots and lots of work that you could be doing from that, right? You can start looking at different perspectives about what's happening in your life. You can see the energy exchanges. You can understand the life stream and the past life influences. You can understand how to heal your soul song, how to reconnect with source. I mean, there's so much within those nesting dolls of who you are. That's really all you need to actually walk this world with empowerment. Okay. So the Voyager Series information, the Ashayana Deane information, this is addressing nesting dolls of existences far beyond the galactic plane. Okay, far beyond the galactic plane. All right. And unless you've been working with those original 9 lenses of who you are up to the galactic plane, unless you've been working that in a way that you've really cleaned up a lot of the belief systems, a lot of the woundings and promises and all this programs and stuff and constructs of the Akasha, once you've cleaned a lot of that up and you're awake to who you are as a galactic being, right? You can immerse yourself into the Ashayana Deane material and it won't be jarring. It won't be so jarring. It'll be shocking in certain ways because you can see just how vast the control systems go. But it's not traumatizing because there's some aspect of you that information is triggering memories that you can actually process. If you're not awake to who you are in the galactic plane, I mean, if you're not awake to who you are as a bodhisattva within yourself, right, that kind of information is not going to be very useful to you. If anything, it's going to create hopelessness, discouragement, right? So that's why that's happening. I hope this is making sense how I'm putting it, and please let me know. That's why this is happening like that. So what I'm saying is that it's not relevant until it is. If you watch something like that and it totally strikes you in a way you're like, what the heck? And oh, I feel terrible, and maybe you have some nightmares and it takes you a few weeks to get back to center, that's an indication that that material is not helpful for you right now. That is not helpful for you right now. Okay? Why doesn't matter. The point is that you recognize it's putting you in a downward spiral, and that is not helpful to you right now. Okay? Now, maybe in a year or somewhere in your journey, you wake up to who you are as a bodhisattva being. You wake up to who you are as a galactic being and beyond. Then maybe that material won't be so shocking, so jarring. Now, I watched those videos that Kerry Cassidy did with Project Camelot, and when they first came out, and it was massively triggering for me, massively. Except there was one thing in there that she showed, and it was a diagram that she showed. And when I looked at that diagram, even though I was shocked and just, all that, I was triggered in a million different directions, that diagram burned into my brain, and to this day I have it in my head. Because that happened, I knew that there was some level of truth happening that she was sharing. But because I was so triggered, I also knew that I was not ready for it. And I just accepted it as that. Now, fast forward 10 years, I watched those videos again, and I'm just like, oh yeah, of course. It makes total perfect sense. Right? But that's not where I was when I first watched it. When I first watched it, I was massively triggered. And this is really important for us all on this journey of awakening. We can't compare, and we can't settle in any moment. We can't ever settle in any moment to think that we know the whole truth. We see the bigger picture and we got the whole truth. It's impossible because we are so vast. We're so vast. Not only do you contradict yourself in that vastness, but it takes multiple perceptions of who you are to even grasp the smallest little spectrum, if this makes sense. So the progress of moving out of the mind traps programs, it's a step-by-step thing. And then as you step through and you decode, let's say the 4D field canopy that's been controlling your actions, your thoughts, and all that stuff. So you wake up out of that. Then there's another level to wake up to, which is who you are beyond your face. What's going on in your soul's journey? Then you can start looking at all the relationships that you have in your life, including that with the government and power systems, not as this person is doing this to me. Instead, you can see it as a manifestation of things that are unresolved in your Akashic records. You see what I mean? So then you can engage in that level. Believe me, there's plenty to keep you engaged and working towards integrating and growing into a multidimensional being. There's no shortage of material to work on within yourself. So this is a marathon. It's not a sprint. Just go step by step by step. If it feels right, if it's supportive, great, keep doing it. What will happen, you'll know when it's time to move on because you'll start getting bored. You'll start being like, yeah, this again, right? And then the next thing can present to you, okay? So I hope please let me know if this is making sense the way I'm putting it. Because in the realm of awakening, there is no such thing as good, bad, right or wrong. And the thing is, we are so trained to perceive things that way, we don't know how to perceive things any differently. For example, if you have an experience with something and then you get a pain or you get something adverse or something really uncomfortable, or you get super triggered, or you start feeling funky, we instantly say, oh, I have pain, so therefore it's bad, and then you'll stop doing it. But really, there's many more nuances going on than that. A lot of times you can start doing something that activates something inside of you, and what just got activated is now pushing up all against the density in your system. And that's going to express itself with pain. That's going to express itself with stress and anxiety. That might express itself as you not being able to sleep, or having your joints hurt, or you see what I mean? Or, not being able to walk up the stairs for a few days. It doesn't mean what just got activated is bad. It means it means that there's density, that what got activated is now coming to the surface for you to work out. Okay. So to categorize something as simply as black and white, good or bad, you're doing yourself a disservice. There was a reason why you were impulsed by your spirit to visit something. Just like dear Sister Carol, there's a reason why you watched that video that you walked away feeling fearful and confused from. Fearful and confusion is not a desired state. Of course not. But something in you wanted to watch that material, so what got triggered would get triggered. You see what I mean? When you start looking at things like this in a much bigger sense, the magic starts coming back into your reality. The magic starts coming back into your world. Your ego driver realizes that it's not actually the one in charge, or the one that is responsible even to navigating. Right? You start to realize that there's a much bigger presence to who you are that's navigating your life, that's putting these opportunities in front of you, that is bringing situations to you. That is the bigger part of who you are. That's the big S part of your spirit doing that. It's not your ego driver. Your ego driver is usually the one getting triggered from what's getting presented. Oh, yeah. Thank you, Polly. Thank you, Polly. Yes, it makes sense. Okay. Oh, we're just cruising right along here. The other thing. Oh, and I also say one more piece on the Ashayana thing. We are all waking up to who we are in our own pace and our own ways. And as we wake up to who we are, that means we are shedding certain frame-ups of reality that have been so for lifetimes. Okay, this is why I've said in the past, many people are even waking on a soul level, are waking up out of even the agendas of their soul group, as in they came here as a collective, a soul collective, and started incarnating with a particular kind of idea agenda. People are waking up even out of that. So they're actually transcending soul collectives even. So what that looks like is so unique to the individual. And believe me, it's not all light. It's not all roses. There's a lot of shadow work. There's a lot of density and darkness to be faced and alchemized and transmuted as you wake up to who you are beyond these groupings. Okay. And it's so unique. What works for me may not work for you. What works for your brother may not work for you. So what works for your best friend may not work for you, right? So it's an important thing to keep in mind. And I have people around me that really love certain processes that I have no interest in whatsoever. It's like I go near it and I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to do that, right? But we have a rapport in the sense of they're not receiving that as a judgment, and I don't feel guilty like I might be making them feel weird because I'm not into it. You see what I mean? It's like there's total freedom in how each of us have total freedom in how we are. There, so we can just be this way and allow that, people around us to be that way too. And that allows for creative freedom. And it's the creative freedom when people are in that kind of state. I love being around people who are in creative freedom. It doesn't matter if I like their style or not. Just the very frequency of being free to create and explore is what I love. Just that frequency, and some people that might not do it for, right? Okay. All right. Let's get on to the medbed thing, because so much is going on with medbed technology, right? Oh, so and actually, I'm on that bandwagon too. So many. Well, let's see how many years ago it was before COVID. Okay, it was before COVID. I think it might have been the summer before COVID happened. I had a dear sister, Starshine, call me up, say, "Hey, listen, have you heard about MedPed technology? I have this device, la, 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 la. It's amazing. I think you should check it out." And what she was talking about was a device called a Healy. And this is where they use the information field in your biosuit to introduce frequencies to help the body balance out disharmonies and disorders. So it not only reads energy systems, meridian systems, chakra systems, all that stuff, but it also treats things, treats pain, treats neuralgia, treats viral load stress, it treats kidney chi stress. I mean, there's all these different categories of treatment. And what it does is that there's a crystal inside the device that downloads the necessary frequencies from a cloud and then transmits them to the person via either the field, or you can use these electrodes. So this is my first exposure to these things. But what was very interesting is that I got the Healy, and before I really got to use it, some of my elemental allies in my entourage, my spiritual entourage, stepped forward and they wanted to recode the device. So I gave it to them, they recoded it, and they gave it back to me. And I've been using it happily ever since. My husband uses it. He told me an amazing story. There was a time when, I can't remember where, we're nomads, right? we're somewhere in the RV in the middle of nowhere. We're in the RV somewhere in the middle of nowhere. And I was working online doing all my Zoom classes, and he's been, he was kind of like, it was raining or something. He really couldn't go out. So he was running Healy system checks and treatments on him for a couple hours. And he said at one point in time, he can actually feel a frequency shift, and he felt an entity or something that felt like an entity leave his body. And when he told me that, I was like, whoa. Oh, and his pain went away, by the way. He was having some kind of, I think, knee pain or something. And all the pain that he had in his body went away. And I was just like, wow, that's a really cool testimony to this product, right? I do have a Healy. I don't really sell them. There's a few people that bought them because I was exploring it, and it sounded really interesting, and they were interested in it too. But I'm not so down with the company anymore. But it's each his own, right? I personally am not a fan of having of subscriptions when it comes to something like that. I rather just pay a whole bunch of money up front, and then I never have to pay money again, right? And that's how that and that's how I prefer to do it. Yes, Beverly, it's the Healy bioresonance device. Yes, exactly. And I have the whatever that top tier one is. So so framing up, that's my experience with that kind of technology. And then I just recently had a friend do a bioscan with his kind of technology, which is a bit different because it takes in allopathic medicine ideas as well. It does all the cell blood counts. It's like a super comprehensive device that through frequency, it evaluates all of your capillaries, all of your blood vessels and veins, and your organs and your tissues. I mean, it's super comprehensive, and it treats any disorders that it finds with frequency. And man, it was so strong. For me, it was really strong. He told me most people don't feel anything, but I was like, at one point in time, I ended up leaping out of my chair because it was so strong, going down my back, which was a vine, by the way, that it was not a vine, a vein, by the way, that it was opening up or resetting or something with frequencies. Anyway, so I did that, and the results were so comprehensive. I was like, wow. And some of those results I took to my acupuncturist because there was some things in the blood work that I found interesting. And she said, oh yeah, there's no problem. We can correct that by strengthening your blood chi, la la la. So I'm like, oh, okay, cool. So I love Chinese medicine, by the way, guys. I don't know if you guys know that about me. Acupuncture and herbs, that is the way to go. You don't really need any other kind of medical doctor if you treat everything with acupuncture and herbs. It is so powerful. It's just a lot of people, states sometimes don't allow practitioners to practice at that level, but also just a lot of people, can't get over the program they were giving that it's woo-woo. It's not woo-woo. It's very real. It's very effective. I had Bell's palsy. That's where your trigeminal nerve becomes infected with a virus and it becomes paralyzed. It's also a well-known side effect of some of the you-know-whats. Treated my Bell palsy, and that was, done in a week and a half, right? I used to have chronic ear infections, had that treated, and then never had an ear infection again. I mean, so really, it's a profound way to treat yourself because it's all with chi, it's all with life force energy. So because of my experience with Chinese medicine and acupuncture, the leap to the Healy or even the Rife machine, like treatment with frequency, was not too much of a leap for me. Though I did have an issue with the AI component in the sense of your biofield information getting uploaded into a cloud, because technologically speaking, we have not mastered how to secure cloud information yet. Not in the human realm, right? So that means that bioinformation could get hacked and downloaded, and a being can have access to your biofield resonance. As I talked in past chats, that is really a bad idea because that is a direct access to you when stuff like this happens. And the example I've given in the past, I know I've talked about this in other chats many times, but I just have to mention it here because it is relevant, is there are methods of the old world where you can create an effigy that is so precise in its resonance that if you do something with the effigy, it affects that which it's connected to. For example, voodoo dolls, right? Voodoo dolls are a mechanism. Well, I mean, Hollywood tells us it's black magic. Not true. Not black magic. Anything could be used to, depending on your intent, right? Everything could be dark or light in your intent. But the original reason why voodoo dolls were used was for a healing conduit. So you'd make a doll that it's so close in resonance, so precise in resonance to the person you're treating, you can do things to the doll and it will directly impact the person you were treating. Well, so many other medicine people have used that same sort of sympathetic resonance to do medicine, whether it be ceremonial medicine, whether it's a family that they're healing or a dynamic that they're healing. They would do things called sand painting, so Huicha in southern Mexico. And there's several other modalities too. And it's the key is that it is such a close resonance match to the subject that you want to impact. So you can imagine digitally, if your biofield information right down to every blood vessel and vein is uploaded into a cloud, and then someone has that information, they can create a digital replica that is an exact replica of you, vibrationally speaking. You see how that could be a bad idea? Okay, so that part I had a problem with. So I ended up taking one of my old iPhones that, I decided not to turn it in, and I have it completely off the wireless network, and it only accesses the internet through a secure network, and all the biofield information I keep on my phone. And then I realized that my elemental buddies that came in and recoded the machine, they recoded it to be a frequency match for me to use. Because what right, because there's an AI component to this. So this is where it becomes interesting. As with anything else, it comes down to sovereignty and responsibility. If you are avoiding something in your life that needs healed, how do you find out? How are you forced to eventually face what needs to be faced? Okay, it's because there's an illness develops. An illness, an accident, some sort of major event that cannot be ignored happens in your life, and that forces you to address what you don't want to address, what you're in denial in, what you're avoiding, so on and so forth. So when you put that kind of human tendency, lack of responsibility, lack of sovereignty. If you take a human that does not take responsibility for themselves, that does not have personal sovereignty, has no idea how to live a healthy lifestyle, let alone create the life that they want, right? They can be in relationship to medbed technology like an addict, or you see what I mean? They can use that as a crutch and use it as a means to never grow, to never really address what it is that their soul wants them to address in this life. Okay, so when you put that kind of idea into the context of medbeds, integrity is everything for not just the receiver but for the users. And this is the main concern that the elementals have expressed about medbed technology, that if you're using it to help you heal and address yourself in a holistic way, where you're taking responsibility for why you're in the state of needing healing, if you're taking responsibility for why a particular event is occurring, if you are actively working your resources as a sovereign being responsible for your health and wellness, medbed technology is a wonderful tool. But if you are not responsible for yourself, if you are a victim to the world, and you're in the blame game, if you're not sovereign, if that is not your baseline, then the medbed technology can be easily used to hijack and manipulate you even further, make you even more dependent on the technology. And that's the whole thing. The control systems of this world do what they can to make people dependent. Because once you're dependent on something, then now you can be controlled. And we've seen that play out in the shenanigans, right? Right? Yeah, think about that. Those people, because it was ruled in the United States anyway, businesses that take federal money have to abide by the mandates that the federal government says. Businesses that accept health insurance, particularly Medicaid and Medicare, you have to abide by what the mandates say. If you're an independent hospital and you're not, and that's not your bread and butter, your policies can be made by the administrators. But if it's not, and it's primarily government money that you're being paid, well, now you're shackled. You don't have so many choices. You have to listen to them. You see what I mean? Another example is there's a program that was started in California and one in Philadelphia about a universal income, right? Not that I'm not for socialistic ideas. I think some socialistic ideas can be amazing for improving the human experience, where we can no longer be consumed with running the rat race and instead have a society set up that feeds our creativity, right? And feeds our ability to imagine and manifest and make beauty and create a lifestyle for everybody, not just the chosen, right? Not just the rich, not just the educated, right? But for all of life on this planet. So that's so just so you know, that's where I'm at personally with all this stuff. But the way these certain rollouts are happening, they're meant to make people dependent. So then they have to then they get faced with a choice. Okay, well, if you want your kid to get if you want a medical treatment, well, then now you have to take this vaccine, or else I'm not going to operate. I'm not going to give you this life-saving operation, right? That's the game that's being played with a lot of people right now. There are people who've been waiting years on a transplant list that are being refused transplants because they won't get vaccinated. Right? It's like, wait a minute, hold on a second. But they can do that because that the structure is supported. They're dependent on that government money. They really don't have so much of a choice. And then you also have like those universal incomes. You imagine everybody's on a universal income, and then some kind of program gets rolled out that you don't agree with and you don't think your children should be a party to, but they say, oh, well, if you don't do this, you're not going to get your universal income anymore. We're not going to support you anymore. Right? So you can see how it is a slippery slope in that way. So with MedBeds, this is what I'm talking about. It's amazing technology. It really opens people up to the idea that we are frequency. Everything is frequency first, right? And people like us, starseeds and way showers and visionaries, we totally jive with that, right? We totally jive with that. Using technology to address the frequencies is just one of many, many, many ways to do it. There's Qigong, right? There's acupuncture, there's herbs, there's all sorts of modalities out there that already address this information field frequency level of healing. So it's not a magic bullet, but it's definitely a convenient tool. Because, for example, with the Healy, I was using this to treat myself with all sorts of things. You know, we would go hiking and I'd be really sore. I also do a chi machine, which I love, 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 love. Don't even get me going on the chi machine. It's like a mystical healing device for people like us. But I would use the Healy for, you know, when kidney stress or helping with sleep or all this kind of stuff. And the reason why was because I couldn't see any practitioners during COVID. They were, for one, a lot of them were locked down and they weren't allowed to see people. And the ones that were allowed to see people, there was a lot of restrictions involved. And you know what I mean? So it was kind of like a practitioner was not readily available for me. So Healy filled that void for me for the past 2 years. Now I'm in a place where I can see an acupuncturist again, which I love. But, you know, so it is a wonderful tool. But like I said, it's a slippery slope. We have to be careful. Are we using it because we're not taking responsibility for something that we should be taking responsibility for, as in our soul is calling for us to pay attention to something and we're avoiding it, right? So we need to ask questions like that of ourselves if we're using it and, right, as are we using it as a crutch or are we using it as a tool, right? If we're using it as a tool, then we use it sparingly whenever we don't need it very often, but when we need it, it's there. If we're using it as a crutch, we're using it regularly. And then when we don't have it, we feel like like something's missing, right? You become addicted to that crutch. That's my take on it. But what's your guys' take? What do you think about the med beds? What do you think about, how do you like to use them? There's all sorts of med bed technology out there. I would love to hear from you guys. So if you guys have experience with these different med bed technologies, please put them in the comments. I know that our listeners will also, other listeners would be interested in your experiences and what you have to say about that. It's not just, you know, this is just me speaking my ideas and my thoughts about it, but I'd love to hear what you guys have to say. Wow, time just flies by, doesn't it? Wonderful. Okay, so I just have a couple announcements to make before I sign off today, and I'll read off the comments if you guys put them in there by the time I'm done with these quick announcements. Number one, I'm back to doing public speaking. I'm so excited about that. I really missed peopling. I miss being with people. And there is a Gift of Light show in Cleveland, Ohio, August 3rd. The weekend of the first weekend in August, which is like the second, third, maybe. So I'll be speaking both days at that Gift of Light show. It's at the Berea Fairgrounds. They call it Cleveland, Ohio, but it's Berea, technically. And then I'll be doing, the first talk will be about reclaiming your dream time, how to step into dreaming the world into being again. And then the topic after that on Sunday will be, I'm sorry, I'm reversing them. The topic on Saturday is accelerating your keys to accelerating your psychic intuitive abilities. And then the one on Sunday is all about dream time, how to harness dream time into creating the world that you want. So those are hour-long talks. You guys are welcome to come out and give us a visit, say hi. I'll have a booth there as well, so you can even hang out for a minute. My husband will actually be there too, and he'll be offering Healy sessions. So if you want to have like a Healy scan or an aura scan or chakra scan or meridian or whatever, you know, he'll be there playing with that, because that's a device that really he has a lot of fun with and he believes in. So that's just something that's fun to offer in conversation with people that visit our booth. So I hope you guys, some of you guys can make it. That would be awesome to see you in person. But if not, of course, there's going to be more opportunities, because I have some other opportunities lining up for me to do some live talks in this area, but also out west. And then let you guys know that at the beginning of April, our quantum reality shift, our next quantum reality shift session begins. And that is April 3rd, which is a Sunday. And I encourage you guys to check that out if you want to learn how to untangle those quantum entanglements that are holding you in certain energy patterns. I encourage you to check this program out. It's made, everything is recorded, but it's made for the busy working person. Every session is about 90 minutes long, and how this goes is the first session is a foundation session where you're learning the basics of how to manage your energy, good energetic hygiene, how to move energy, how to what you kinds different things you could be doing with your own energy field, reclaiming energy, stuff like that. And that happens every month. And then after that, we go into forgiveness practice, learning how to use compassion and forgiveness to unravel quantum entanglements that you have with your ancestors and also in the Akasha. And that too is every month. And then the third component to that is a Lightbody activation, where we not only download Lightbody encodements for your system that are deeply healing and could potentially get planted within your field, if that's something that's within your spirit's soul's purpose to do. And then we also clear energy as well. So it's a wonderful, wonderful process, this 3-step process that we do every month for at least 6 months. Many people have decided to keep going with it because they enjoyed it so much. But that's the quantum reality shift in a gist of how we're facilitating these transformations. So if you're interested in checking that out, please go to lightbodyacademy.com. And when you scroll down, you'll see that there is a link there to look at what the details are about the quantum reality shift. We have the Dreamtime Healing Project as well, but it's full right now. So the way to get on the waiting list for the Dreamtime Healing Project is to sign up for the Quantum Reality Shift, because once you're in that, you're on the short list of, to take the place when openings open for the Dreamtime Healing Project. All right, that's it for me. Thank you for sticking around and chatting with me, guys. Love you all. I'm so blessed to have you guys here and to be able to talk about these things on this level. It's really awesome. If you want to invite someone to that Facebook group, Rise of the Multidimensional Human, please let them know they need to fill out all 3 questions. If you don't fill out all 3 questions, you don't get admitted into the group right away. So that's important, because this is how we keep the integrity of our group. Believe it or not, something that simple actually filters out the people that really aren't interested in a community and just want to, just kind of like don't really recognize that they're communicating with other humans on Facebook. So we have a very special group, lots of mutual respect for people with different ideas and different paths. So please let them know they'd have to answer all 3 questions. All right, and that is it for me, guys. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'll see you guys next week, Thursday at noon. Mwah, mwah. Bye. Sweet dreams.